Hey there, Truxton. We've got the match set up here. The challenge is issued. Don't know who's going to be what. Looks like you're white. So I prepared nothing either, just like you said you did. I imagine you're going to play D4, and I'm going to go into a think. I'll start thinking on your time right now. Actually, I have a student that wants to answer D4 with G6, so he played that. I was going to play G6. Well, guess I'll play it some other time. Okay, you're playing my opening. Well, what am I going to do against my opening? That's a good question. It's only my opening recently. So, I guess what I'll do is I'll try to play a line that would give me fits, if such line exists. You know what? I never play the Dutch. I'm going to play the Dutch against it. Let's see what you do against the Dutch. Now you can play E4, and I'll play Knight C6, and we have a Fred. Oh, I'm so sneaky. All right, I got to turn a light on. I forgot to turn the light on here, and I have my full-size chess set up next to me, and that way I can, if I turn a light on, I can see it. I can start looking at the board instead of looking at the diagram on the two-dimensional. Okay, he played C4. Now, I have some experience in the C4, E5, Knight C3, Knight C6, Knight F3, F5 lines. It's a very complex system. I don't know if I want to transpose into that just yet. What I want to do is think about this. And I want to look at my regular size chess set, and it's all there. I had set up with me with having white because I didn't know what color I'd be. A 50% chance of getting it right. So Knight F3, F5, C4. Okay, probably the simplest thing to do is just go into a mainline Dutch and see how much theory I remember. No use trying to be tricky here. I'll just go into a standard opening, I think. Okay, so although there may be some ways to make the position tricky depending on how Truxton opens, I don't know. Just have to wait and see, huh? Okay, so D4. So now we're in a pretty much standard Dutch. Okay, how do I want to play this? Let's see. How about if I go for Leningrad Dutch? It's safe and solid. Okay, G6. Now I'll have to stop and remember how this goes, but it shouldn't be much of a problem. We just kind of play standard opening moves for a while. And I know the Black Castle's here rather quickly, plays D6, C6. I think, I don't know where the lines are, but, you know, it's an interesting thing. You don't have to know a line. You can just rely on general principles to make your moves. Now, in a longer time control game, you should spend some time deciding on what your moves are. So far, I've just played on my increment, but these are the moves that one needn't really think too long about. It's the subsequent moves after the first few. Like I've already said, black should try for D6 and C6, and after that I'm not too sure. Does the knight go to C6? Oh no, it can't go to C6 because C6 is covered. I know I beat a British grandmaster in correspondence from the white side of this once, and I believe his knight went to A6 and then came back to C7. Okay, so what I was trying to say is I don't necessarily have to know all the moves and all the theory here. All I have to do is rely on straight intuition, and any complications that arise, stop and take my time. Now I shouldn't be spending inordinate amounts of time right here trying to sort out which move I want to play. It's pretty straightforward. I'm going to play D6. I'm going to play it in just a moment, but I don't want to later moves as we get about moves 8 to 15. There could come a time when I have to stop and just sort things out. Now I might only take a minute on a move, If I'm actually playing in a real game, I should maybe spend 5-6 minutes. And by a real game, I mean a actual live game. 60-30 is still a little quicker than most USCF rated tournaments, so and it's similar in a lot of respects to the 45-45 time control. The only difference being you get an extra 15 minutes up front on your clocks. So the E time of this is about an 80-minute game. That's the full time, 60 minutes plus 2/3 the increment. 60 plus 20 is 80. 45-45 is 45 plus 30 or 75. So this is very close to the 45-45 control. The only difference being you have that extra 15 minutes that you can burn if necessary if you run into some kind of difficulty early. And in my experience playing over the board chess, even at a time control of 40 and 2, I've had players get in time trouble around move 20-25, or they'll have spent an hour on maybe their first 12 moves. I don't know what they're thinking about necessarily. A lot of times they're just looking for a little too much in a position, but it's still a good practice to take your time. There's some extremes. Now, right now, both of us are pretty much playing off the increment. My time says 59:56. It says 59:44. And I already pretty much know what my next move is going to be. It's going to be C6. And then I'll stop and calculate how I want to play this after that. All I'm doing is looking to have a solid position and get my pieces out, and then try to formulate some sort of a plan depending on how white dictates things. Naturally, neither side can go for broke right now. The pieces aren't developed. So what will we go for after the pieces are developed? Well, we'll just kind of find out. As black, I need to maintain the advantage the disadvantage of the first move. Just stay tit for tat with white. In other words, punch, counter punch. In other words, develop, counter develop. Neither side has a weakness, obviously, of course. Who's going to, we have to see how we feel each other out here. Is someone going to try for something positional to try to create some kind of imbalance in the position? There's no real imbalance yet in the position, other than the fact that white has a slightly better pawn center than black does. But black is ready to strike back in the center. At some point, black might be trying for E5 here, and that's probably the only center pawn break I'm going to be pushing for. Is E5, and I see it being moves away before I even attempt it. Okay, so for instance, knight C6, knight A6, knight C7, and then maybe at some point bishop E6, simply to see how white defends the pawn on C4. I'll keep the option of bishop E6 open for a while. I may slide the king over to H8 just to have G8 open for my bishop in case it's at some point kicked. I don't know. Just something to keep in the back of my mind. If white plays for E4, that might be thematic. He's a little ways away from that. I control the square now. He's going to he can get a knight to C3. That's natural. That's going to happen. How else is he going to back up E4? With either queen C2, rook E1, or maybe move his knight on H4 or F3 to H4 or some other square so that E4 could be played. But that's still a ways from happening, and until he starts preparing for it, I don't need to necessarily worry too much about it, although I could keep it in the back of my mind. If I do something, will E4 be a counter to it? In other words, anticipate what your opponent is doing ahead of time. You should be okay. So, but anyway, if black has a pawn structure, the C pawn going to C6, I'm just solid everywhere. He can't get in anywhere. He's not going to pick up any quick attack or anything like that. And if he tries too hard to break my position open, then he could make maybe some weaknesses for himself. So right now we're just kind of feeling ways out. I'm happy with the time being spent here. I've conserved most of my time. I'll still have that 30-second increment to rely on. And if I need to go into a deep 5-10 minute think for even a series of 2 or 3 moves, I will have the time. So really, there's no discernible time edge at this point because I'm only 4 minutes up on the clock, but we're still early. I expect Truxton to take some time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play c6 right away without much thought. I want the clock going back on his, or the pressure of the move back on him. Not so much that I'm worried about saving time. I just want him to get used to players that play quick. Although I'm not necessarily going to play quick in this game. There are players that tend to play the whole game quick. I don't know how they can get away with it. Maybe they'd be much stronger if they didn't. I often wondered that. Why do they play quick? Well, a lot of times if they've said, well, I just want the game over, go home to the wife, I'm just happy to play. And he says, well, I tried slowing down and all I did was get myself in time trouble and play the move that I was originally planning anyway, so I rarely changed it, so I just stuck with playing quick. And it's interesting, I've actually had difficulty in my past with players that play quick, but most of these times were cases where players that I played when I was expert in A level. I wasn't yet master level, and I haven't looked at the game scores in ages to try to figure out what it is that they're doing to me that's making me lose. And the best thing I can come up with is that I played impulsive chess, just trying to refute what they were doing, and instead of just sitting down and trying to capitalize on their quick moves with something a little more tangible, other than just trying to get them to fall into some little tactical skirmish. Okay, so back to this. I can say more about playing against quick players later. Bishop B3 is certainly a move I didn't expect. Okay, why? Well, because it blocks the e-pawn, and oftentimes that's something White wants to do in a Dutch, is push that pawn to e4. I know I would like to do it. When I was playing the English, occasionally I would run into f5 players that would play a Dutch, and I would try to tend to get for an e4 move. I often had my own strategy with the English. I'd keep the pawn on d3, not go to d4, not to go into a mainline Dutch. So that way I preserved options if black exchanged to take back with the pawn, or whatever. But here he's clearly, in my mind, what he's trying to do is maybe trade off my dark squared bishop. Okay, queen d2, bishop h6, and bishop takes g7. Well, there's a lot to be said about that, why I don't mind that strategy. Okay, let me just play a little fantasy chess on my line and analyze something out. Suppose I play knight a6, he plays queen d7, and I play knight c7. This was something I'd analyzed already. And now he plays bishop h6. Okay, well, what have I accomplished here? I'm behind in development, but I can get it back. Okay, for instance, I can play bishop e6 at this point. Okay, if I play bishop e6, I'm tempoing his pawn on c4. He does at some point need to deal with that. Okay, so let's suppose, first off, if he plays bishop takes g7, I play king takes g7, and now if he plays b3, I needn't worry about moves like knight g5, because I have a square for my bishop to drop back to, g8, and I've not had to spend a tempo with king h8. So I'm happy with that, and then I'm ready. I'm close to being ready to playing e5. I'm not quite prepared for it, but I'm close to it, and I'm certainly solid in this position. I have no discernible weaknesses, and objectively looking at this, let's see, I've got several pawns on white squares, the same color on my bishop, but so does he, so that's about a wash. But the game's even. We anticipate that. We can't expect as black to achieve a winning position in a dozen moves of an opening. The rest of the game still needs to be played. From this position, instead of playing for E5, perhaps I could play for C5, but there's some drawbacks to that. It increases the scope of his light-squared bishop, which may or may not be a bad thing. It entices him to put a pawn on D5, which gives him a whole E6 to occupy, but then I get maybe some counter breaks with B5 coming up. So let's see. But it's White's move in this position after, let's see, B3. Let's see, C5. If he plays D5, yeah, then I play bishop G8. And it's his move. And I'm not ready quite yet for B5, but I'm getting closer. He's got a hole on E6, but I've got that covered pretty well. The bishop on G8 and the knight on C7 cover that. Okay, so it seems to me like these types of positions are satisfactory for black. So what I can do now is basically say, what are the odds of that position happening? It could happen, but it probably won't happen, as most positions won't, because there's only one tree or branch of the tree that we can go into. So the question is to examine other plans, other candidate moves. Since I've decided what he's probably going to do is play for his bishop H6, unless he has something else, which I'll talk about in a second. What I have to look at are alternative developing plans. Okay, an alternative plan is Queen C7. What does Queen C7 do? It's preparing E5. Okay, so like for instance, Queen C7. If now Bishop H6. No, he can't play that yet. Okay, he has to play Queen D2 to get the battery going. Okay, so Queen C7, Queen D2. Now I can play E5 directly. Do I want to? What are his possibilities now? He could be putting the queen on C1 too. Let's just put it in C1 instead of D2. That avoids a possible tempo loss with if I play Rook D8. So let's see, D4, E5. Now pawn takes on E5. Now he goes ahead and plays Bishop H6. Okay, now I can stop and play Bishop E6 at this point, and that tempos the pawn again. Now you can either play Bishop takes G7 right away or B3. Let's just go ahead and play B3, and he is threatening Knight G5 now. So how do I stop that? Okay. Well, one way to do it is just let him play it, okay, and get developed. Okay, for instance, I could play E4. Now he plays Knight G5. I can't, because I play Bishop takes H6 and Bishop takes H6, and he plays Knight takes E6, and I play Bishop takes C1. He plays Knight takes C7. Now I got a loose critter on A8, so I play Bishop B7 or Bishop B2, and if he takes on A8 and I take on A1, he takes on A1, and I play Knight A6, and his knight on A8 is trapped. And what have I gained? Have I gained anything? I've shut in his bishop. It's behind a bunch of my pawns. He can grab the D file, Rook D1, Rook takes A8. Okay, now where does he go? He can't go to D7, that's covered. So he's on the D file, but he doesn't have a lot. Maybe what he needs to try to do is activate his bishop with F3. The idea of F3 is it pressures E4 a little bit, so I'm going to probably have to exchange, unless Rook E8. Well, then my knight's on f6 is going to get displaced, and he gets rook to d7. So f takes e4. Now he plays, e takes f3. E takes f3. Now he's ready for f4 to activate his bishop. Although it doesn't really have any targets, I centralize my king. King f7. King f2. Well, let's just play f4 instead of king f2. Okay, now time for me to get my knight on a6 into play, knight c5, and the game looks pretty even. White having the bishop, but the bishop doesn't have a lot of scope. So that position in my analysis seems to be even. No winning chances for black. Okay, so queen c7 is certainly an interesting move. Will the game go the way I said if I try that line? I don't know. There's only one way to find out, is to play it. Let's see. Now I've consumed some clock time. Now I have 5 minutes less. Where did my time go? Well, it can go real easy in standard chess. And I'm not sure how forced that whole line was, but what I'm trying to do is with the line is develop my pieces and get some kind of strategic equality out of it. Not to give up not to give any white any discernible advantage past the advantage of the first move. So anyway, let's see. On queen c7, he can also play bishop f4, but then he just wasted a move with his bishop. And I can play knight bd7, and I'm getting ready for e5. Now I know the British GM against me. In the Dutch, he played Leningrad Dutch. He played the knight from a6 or b8 to a6 into c7, and he had a decent game. But I was able to sacrifice an exchange on him and just get him in a bad position and grind him down. So let's see, queen c7. I'm liking that move more and more, simply because it's trying to play a thematic move, and it asks white to see what he can do. So let's try queen d2 this time. I had it on c1 earlier. On d2, if this series exchanges takes place after the knight g5 trick, I'm going to be able to take on c3 directly. Let's go ahead and examine that. Okay, so queen c7, queen d2, e5, bishop h6. Let's take on e5 first. Okay, now bishop h6. Now I do have rook d8, but I was playing bishop e6. Rook d8 mean anything? It might. Let's say bishop e6, and I was having him play knight g5. Well, here though I can take on c4, so he has to stop with and protect things with b3. Otherwise, I'll just grab that pawn and run. So now again I have rook d8, but let's go into the other line where his knight came to g5. Now, how did I do that? I don't remember now how I did it with the queen on c1. Maybe I was just playing it unsoundly, or something's not right, or maybe I gave two moves to one side, because how else do I improve my position? So I can go ahead and play knight bd7 here. Now on knight g5, we go about our business. Bishop takes h6, and he takes on e6, and I take on d2, and he takes on c7. Now I can play rook c8, and I think I'm going to win two pieces for the rook at least, maybe better. Rook c8. I could play the peculiar knight b1. Then I save my bishop. Bishop h6, knight e6, rook e8. His knight's trapped. strange chess. Well, I'm liking queen c7 more than the plan of knight a6, because here I'm ready to break with e5. It's going to take me a while longer to break with e5 in the other lines. So with the knight a6 lines, I'm still far from prepared of playing it, so I'm going to, don't know when I'll play e5, but I'm going to be ready for it. And developing the queen here does develop the queen, which gets my rooks closer to being connected. And instead of spending 2 moves to develop my knight a6 to c7, I'm going to do it in 1 move. So we'll see how much of all this he sees in his analysis. Again, this is all predicated on, well, not all, but a lot of it's predicated on him setting up the battery of the queen and bishop on the c1 h6 diagonal and trading off my dark squared bishop. I don't know what his other plan would be. Of course, he'll have to find a plan. He's close to getting his development completed. He just needs to move his queen, and his rooks are connected. So how is white so far ahead in development here when I still have a couple minor pieces? Well, part of the answer is that he has only made 3 pawn moves and I've made 4. Okay, so that plus him having the advantage of the first move explains why white is ahead in development. But the development edge is not something that's totally insurmountable for black, simply because I have no weaknesses in my position, and he can't really, he can get his pieces developed, he can't get him to other good squares. I'm going to be with the position closed up, I'm going to be able to swing my guys into action soon enough. Okay, so since I took a fair amount of time on that move, I expect him to take a fair amount of time. It's just a natural reflex. What's he taking so much time for? Well, one of the reasons I was taking time was to explain my ideas, what goes on in my head. And you can see I didn't really look at a lot, and I don't. During a game, I don't really calculate a lot of lines out. I basically make moves with ideas. And as long as I'm careful and don't overlook a simple tactic that blows my whole plan to shreds, I'll come up with a solid move every time. I may not come up with the best move every time, but I'll come up with a solid move almost every time. And it really doesn't matter what my opponent does, he's not going to get an advantage against it. And that right here, that's just here we are at move 8, and you know, I could lose this position to anybody, but you know, a grandmaster is going to have to work to beat me. An international master is going to have to work to beat me. An expert is probably not going to beat me. You know, barring simple overlooked things, I'm not going to get outplayed in a position like this against a player lower than me. For Truxton to outplay me here, what he's going to have to do is basically come up with a strategy that keeps me on my toes, that forces me into some kind of ending where he still preserves some tiny little advantage, be it a slightly more active minor piece, some kind of a pawn break that could give him some kind of a lasting endgame initiative. You know, it's tough to beat. I'm a tough guy to beat, and that's what we all want to say about each other. We want to be tough players to beat, because if someone can't beat you, then the best they can do is draw against you, and there's nothing wrong with drawing players of your rating and higher. Ideally, you want to beat them, but there's nothing at all wrong with drawing players even close to you in rating, because then they didn't beat you. If you can sit there and play a game that they can't beat, then you can only improve your ability by going back over the game and finding other alternatives. You know, if the game ended a draw, why did it end a draw? Maybe you had some kind of advantage and couldn't convert it. Well, next time you're going to be able to, because you can discover what the advantage was you failed to convert and make corrective allowances. Okay. So, okay. An impulsive type move is something like rook c1. I'm not saying rook c1 is a bad move, but the idea behind it is that it might lead to some kind of position somewhere at some point where a tactic of the rook versus my queen could come into play. Now, how's that going to happen? Well, some pawns have to disappear for one, but that might not be all that hard to do. And then again, it might be hard to do. It might be next to impossible. But let's see. Let's get in the mind of a regular chess player, any chess player. What's White going to do here? Okay. Well, objectively, what White would like to do is find a way to take advantage of the fact that he's got better development. That's the common sense approach. How do you do that? Well, you keep developing. So Queen D2 is a developing move, all right, because it connects the rook. So White doesn't have to continue with the Bishop H6 plan. Again, that takes time. Okay, there's the challenge, D5. Okay, now this is a move I don't mind. I wasn't necessarily expecting it because I wasn't necessarily expecting any particular move here. So what does D5 do? Well, what D5 does is it takes away E6 from me. Now, does he want to go in there? I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. Okay, so the first natural move I might consider, let's just go candidate moves. My candidate moves are C takes D5 and a developing move. What developing moves are there? Well, there's knight Bd7. I could also even play E5 in this position. But let's not. Let's consider taking his pawn. How's he going to retake? Okay, if he takes back with his pawn, the C file's open. Plus, I've weakened B5, and then my queen's a little bit embarrassed there. Plus, he's got some pressure on A7. I don't necessarily want to take there. If anyone's going to capture, I want him to take on C6. Okay, what other candidate moves do I have? Well, one is E5, actually. I can play that. Okay. Well, his candidate moves are to take on C6 or to take on passant. Let's suppose he takes en passant. Okay. Now I take back with my bishop. Now I've developed my bishop, right? And there's the pressure on his C pawn, which he needs to deal with. Now it's true I have a weak pawn on D6, but he's not threatening to take it now, and he's got to deal with the pawn on C4. So how's he going to do that? Candidate moves queen B3 or B3. If he plays B3, I might be able to bother him with knight E4, although I don't have to. This might be a good place to just simply tuck the king to H8 and answer knight G5 with bishop G8. And what's he going to do next? Well, he can double up on the d-pawn, or he can play bishop F4. If he plays bishop F4, well, again, some tactics come up combined with the discovery on C3. So if anything, I can just play knight E8. Now, D6 is well secured. C3 is under attack. I've covered E6. So he's got to cover C3. So let's see, queen D2. And now I play knight A6. And if he plays rook AD1, then I can play rook D8. Okay, now what have I accomplished here? He's got to watch out for a tactic of C5 push. Well, I'm not too worried about that right at the moment. Let's see. Whose move is it? I think it's black-white to move. Okay, so let's see. We can't play C5. I'm ready to play knight C5 and knight E6. I don't necessarily want to play H6 and drive his knight out, because then H6 will be a weak pawn for me I'll have to deal with. So how does White improve his position here? Maybe with E4. Okay, E4, trying to open up some lines and get guys into play. Okay, that would get another knight into E4 if I take. So suppose I don't take and let him take. Suppose I play knight C5. Okay, now the pawn on D6 is not guarding the knight on C5 because my bishop hangs, or it's pinned against the queen. So let's see. He plays he takes f4, and I play rook takes f4. Wow, look at those wonderful bishops I have. They've just got all kinds of scope. And he might try bishop h3 here, just mainly to get a little more control on e6. So where do I put the rook? I'd almost sacrifice it. And rook takes f4. He can't take with the queen because bishop takes c3, so he'd have to take with the pawn. And then I've got for an exchange sack, I've got a couple of, giving white a couple of weak pawns to deal with, but not quite enough compensation. Rook takes f4, g takes f4. What else do I have? Just don't seem to quite have enough here to justify an exchange sack. So let's put the rook back on f8 when it's attacked, not sack. Okay, now he's stopping me from playing a knight to e6. So maybe now's the time he plays knight c to e4 to get another attacker on the d6 square. And he's threatening to win a piece with knight takes knight, so let's go ahead and take it off with my knight. He takes back with his knight. Now he's got 4 guys on d6, and I've got 3. I've got a queen, rook, and a knight. So I can't move the d-pawn. And I can't play bishop e5 because he takes and then takes on e5, and the pawn on d6 is pinned, and I drop my rook. Wow, it's fascinating position. So all I need to do is maintain equality here and give white a chance to overextend himself. So how can we do that? Okay, what's the clock? I have 40 minutes left. Okay, so there should be plenty of time to find an adequate move here. That worked out okay for white. So the question is, did I miss an improvement for black? And this is why we have to go back over it and try to determine if there's an improvement. If we can do a little bit better here. Okay, so d5. What I was saying is if I force the issue with e5, okay, I was going ahead and giving up the weak d pawn to do this. The idea being that I want to firmly entrench myself in an equal position, so his only chance to refute it is to take en passant. Now I take with the bishop, and then he plays b3. Okay, now I've got a weak pawn. How to deal with it? Well, one way to deal with it is to play d5 right now, strike while the iron's hot. That does have some potential drawbacks to it, but actually maybe it does. If he plays bishop f4 on my queen, I can play queen a4 or queen a5, and I'm on his knight. And this seems to be okay for black. Maybe this is what I missed. Just a simple d5 push. What was I doing for him? I was trying to get on the d pawn. I was playing queen d2, followed. Let's see. So on d5, suppose he plays knight g5. That could be the fly in the ointment. Knight g5. Okay, because he's on e6 now. So we might have, and it also increases the pressure on d5. So me playing d5 may not work because of knight g5. So maybe this is the position where I have to stop and play. That's why I have to play king h8. And then on queen d2, pressuring d6, if I play d5, he goes back to knight g5, and now let's see, bishop g8. Now he's crawling all over d5, so pawn takes. I get a pin in the end of this. Knight takes, and he takes. And do I get anywhere with that pin? He can also counterpin. Rook D8. Gotta watch my king on F7. That's shaky. Or make sure I don't get checkmated down there somehow. So Rook D8. He plays Rook AC1. The point being, if bishop takes D5. For me, to regain the piece, oh wait, I can't do this because my queen on C7 is hanging. But the point was I was trying something to regain, be able to reoccupy D5, and I can't do it. Okay, so it could be E5 is just an aborted idea, and I don't have to play it. So, you know, black doesn't have to prove that he can upset the apple cart, so to speak, make the move which defines the strategy of the position, because E5 may just be one of those moves that a grandmaster can pick clean, that is impulsive, that a black player should just refrain from. Simply make a straightforward developing move and live and learn, find another plan. Okay, so what's the other plan? Let me look at E5 one more time before I reject it. Okay, D takes E, bishop takes E6, now B3. Now, one thing I can do is keep his knight out of G5 with H6, but that gives him some time. Okay, H6, it also weakens G6. I'm not liking it. Queen D2 gains time, King H7, Rook AD1. He's crawling all over D6 again. You know, this may not be that bad, but I've weakened my king position, and I really want to avoid that if I can. It's the kind of move that a grandmaster is going to pick clean, and I don't have time to sit and analyze everything out. It just doesn't seem to make political sense here. Although I could probably get away with it against anybody FM and lower, I'm just not liking it. Unless I don't like what I see in the other lines, then I come back and I try E5 to mix things up and let improve things. But then what I've done is I've proved that if I don't like the other lines, I've proved Queen C7 is no good. I liked it. Now, if I don't like the other lines, I'll have proved it's no good. Now, one thing I can do is just play C5 here. C5 gives him B5, but so what? I'll kick that knight out now in a heartbeat. C5, I can pretty much abandon the idea of playing E5. After that, but I get this. Look at that long diagonal for my bishop. Wow, it's so nice. Okay, C5. I'm kind of liking that move. E5 is just it's extremely good for study. But I don't think it's if you're playing for win for black, it's a kind of move to play for win. But C5, I'm liking it. I don't know what's wrong with it. Like I say, so what if he plays knight B5? I mean, my queen will just go to B6, where he can't bother it, and I'm threatening A6. Okay, so let's see. So he plays queen D2, A6, knight C3. Okay, now what do? Well, I can prepare for a B5 break. Do that a number of ways. And I'm not too worried if he ends up getting into a knight into C6 or E6. Well, you know, owing to time, E5 is extremely interesting and worth more study, but the economy of the clock is dictating what to do, and I'm going to play C5. Okay. Another thing I didn't go into much in detail. With the queen on C7, I don't have much to do with the knight A6 plan, because the knight's going to C7 that way to watch E6, and with my queen on C7, I've taken that option away. So still haven't solved exactly where I want the knight to go yet. It may still go to A6, and it may not. It may sit there for a while until I get a B5 break in, and it may be that if he occupies E6 with a knight, that I'll just take it and let his pawn on D5 go to E6 and sit there, and we'll consider it a potential weakness and we'll work on it later. Although it does clear the d5 square for him. You know, at this point I'm not too worried about the e6 square. It just, I have adequate play against it. But this way I've activated my light squared bishop or dark squared bishop. So it seems to me like his play should revolve around getting to e6, since I've gone and freely given him that option. You know, I think clearly knight b5 is just a waste of time. So knight g5. Then I need to go ahead and play knight a6, and when he plays knight e6, I take it off, and he takes back with his pawn. And like I say, I'm not too worried about this because even though he gets the d5 square, I got a little say-so here myself. I can play queen b6 here, pressuring b2, and I don't think we can play knight d5. So we let him. Knight d5, and then I take, and he takes with the bishop, I guess, to keep the diagonal open. Now I've got b2, but he's got counter on b7. You know, this is not bad for black. Black's holding his own here. I don't have to worry about this too much. Knight c7. Now if his bishop retreats, he drops his pawn. So this should be fine for me. Rook b1. Let's see. Rook b1. Knight takes d5. E takes d5. And I can play queen a6, hitting a2. Plays a3, and you know, he's got those lovely pawns down there, but nothing else to work with them. I'm getting active. I get active play with b5. This should be fine for me. I'm not too worried about him occupying a6. I didn't get a chance to discuss it due to time constraints, but I can discuss it on his move. So a knight g5 plan I'm not worried about. I'll just develop and take his knight off. I don't need to preserve the light squared bishop. I'll just take it off and then continue finding active play elsewhere. And this may actually give me, if you know, ideally I'd like to win. Of course we always like to win, but it might give me more winning chances here than playing e5, simply because there were a lot of complications in the other line, and here I get active play. My bishop, my dark squared bishop, gets very active. I get pawn breaks to make on the queen side, which I didn't have in the other line, and each of those lead to some kind of active play. Plus, he consumes a few tempos going about his business to win my light squared bishop for his knight, and he really doesn't have, even though he had that nice pawn down on e6, he doesn't have a lot left to go with it. And there could be those advanced pawns become a weakness for him at some point. We don't know yet. It just depends on how the game goes. So he's got a 12-minute time advantage. I've got 34 minutes left. Man, I can really see how even 60-30 is just too fast. It's just, to play adequate consistent master level chess, one must have at least 2 hours on their clock for their first 40 moves. You know, just almost a forced outcome. So file size 111.49 megabytes. Well, they're not going to fit on MediaFire, but I know how to get it to you. I will show you. I can teach you the wonders of WinRare. I hope you have it. If you're not, you're going to. Okay, so I'm going to stand up and walk a little bit, just like I would in a normal game. That means nothing gets said here on the video for a minute or two, but that's okay. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Took my little walk. In a regular tournament, I will get up and walk around a lot during my game. It's just a habit. It promotes, or have a sip of tea, promotes blood circulation, get your mind free. You can stop and think about something else, which may or may not be a good thing. It just depends. What else? One drawback, I guess, now they have nothing but digital clocks. Back in the old days when they had the analog clocks, you could tell if it was your move or not based upon if the button on your clock was up, and you can't see that now. Although I know with the first analog or digital clock, Kaisha, they made a attachment that would fit on top of it, so you could tell if it was your move because something would be sticking up. They did that to accommodate the players that wanted to be able to tell if it was their move. I don't know what they have now because I haven't been to a tournament and seen the new analog clocks. I've seen some. It's been years. Okay, so Queen D3. What's he trying to do? Well, he went away from his plan he went away from his plan of Queen D2, Bishop H6, if that was ever his plan. So he's far removed from the E4 break, although he could do it soon. I need to get my pieces developed. Okay, how do I do it? Well, knight Bd7 looks okay because on knight G5 I can tempo him with knight E5. And his queen's embarrassed. I'm going to win the pawn on C4. So I don't have to worry too much about I lost my thought. Don't have to worry about knight G5 for that move. Then I have time maybe to slide my rook over to E8 so the knight can go to F8, and I've got E6 covered, just in case I want to take that option from him. Knight Bd7 also clears B8 for my queen. If he tempos it, I can park it there, and then play A6, and I'm close to a B5 break. Close, not quite there yet, but I'm close. Well, knight Bd7 is the move because Bishop D7 just doesn't seem to cut the mustard. Knight Bd7 it is. Okay, go ahead, play knight G5. You can't. You can play Bishop F4. That's, you know, I don't often worry about moves my opponent can play because I always find an answer. Bishop F4 is a candidate move. It clears the E file so he can advance E4 if he wants. It covers E5 so I may not be able to play knight E5 without it getting taken, although that might not be a bad thing. Let's see. Bishop F4, I can develop. Okay, so let's just say I play A6. Okay, let's analyze this and prepare for it ahead of time on his time. Okay, in other words, Bishop F4, okay, A6. Now he plays knight G5. Now, I was playing knight E5 before, so I'll try it again. Now he takes on E5, and I got double pawns. Woo! Big deal. Now, if he plays knight E6, that was his plan. I take back, and I take on E6, he takes, and I've got an E4 push on his queen. And I've got a rook, either rook to D8, probably the F rook, maybe the other one, I don't know. Yeah, I can live with this. This is fine for me. Okay, so Bishop F4 is not a major problem. I'll just do what I was doing. Continue to play on the queen side. I'm trying to set up a B5 break. If not now, later. He can prevent it. He can play A4 and so forth and thwart me for a long time, but I'll just go about and find another plan. Like I was saying, rook F8 to E8 or D8 followed by knight F8, and then I can get the bishop to D7, which further supports a potential B5 break. So these are all potential plans I can play. Okay, let's see. What do I want to do? What does he want to do here? He wants to continue his development. Well, he can develop a rook, but the lines aren't open yet for the rooks, so the question is, which lines are going to open up? Well, the A file may open up at some point if I go through for the A6 B5 plan, and he's countering with A4, so there's an argument for leaving his rook on a1 at least for now. The f rook could go to e1 because there's a plan for the e4 to try to open up the game a little bit, and then the e file will be occupied. So rook fe1 could be a good move here. I'm not, as I said, I'm not too worried about bishop f4 with the idea of knight g5. Bishop f4 with the idea of e4 is another story, but then he spent a tempo getting that set up when he didn't have to. He could have gone for something different. Okay. So, time on the clock. I have a 6-minute deficit, which isn't bad. I have 33 minutes. I've spent 27 minutes plus my increments. If this was a 45-45 game, I would have about 20 minutes left, which is kind of tough for 45-45. Still 10 moves in, and the game is an hour long, almost an hour long. It's 58 minutes and 41 seconds, according to the video capture. That seems to be still a little too quick for an over-the-board game. So, but still, the quality of chess should be adequate. 45-45, 60-30 are pretty good to play a good game. There'll still be a mistake or two that wouldn't have happened in a longer game. But unfortunately, that mistake or two can either affect the outcome or else. Now, here's an interesting move I can play. My last move was knight Bd7. I could play knight e5 right now. Now, the point of knight e5 right now is it takes away his option of playing knight g5. It gives me double pawns, because if he moves his queen, say to c2, I can just snatch that c4 pawn. And so I have a chance to make a forcing issue right now. Maybe bishop f4 is something he should have played. I don't know. I have to continue my development. The only other, let's consider my candidate moves. My candidate moves are to slow play this and play a6, rook b8, and then play b5. That gives him time to do a couple things. So if I play knight e5 right now, I think he has to take on e5. What else does he do? Okay, knight takes, and I take with my pawn. Now I'm ready to play e4. What's e4 do for me? Well, it activates my dark squared bishop. That's for certain. It takes away an e4 break from him. Although he could prepare for it, f3. If he plays f3, that stops me from playing e4. But then I can just go back to the old plan of a6 and b5. So my c5 square is a little weaker, but he's not poised to take advantage of that. Well, maybe he is. Let's see. Suppose he plays d6. Okay, the idea of d6 is to activate his bishop. Now I take with my pawn, he takes with his queen. Or I take his queen, he takes my queen. Now he's threatening to take on c5. And I can't play b6 because of the pin. But his rook's a little misplaced. Well, it's on the 6th rank. It's not really misplaced. It's misplaced only in the respect that I can attack it. But what else do I do? If I play knight e8, he might just stick it on the 8th rank and pin my bishop. Even worse. Ugh. So knight e5 might be an impetuous move because he has stuff as that alternative at his disposal. Playing knight e5 activates his light squared bishop. So, well, you know, you don't know until you look. So knight e5, knight takes e5, d takes e5, d6. Wow. What do I do? My queen's under attack. I have to take on d6 or take with the queen or the pawn, or move the queen. Let's see, pawn takes, he takes with my queen. Now my queen is loose. Okay, now if I take his queen, he takes my queen. How do I guard c5? The answer is I don't. I lose it. I have to, well, no, I could have knight d7, which blocks my dark squared bishop in. If anything, he can play bishop takes b7 and rook takes d7. So no, that knight e5 is impulsive move. You know, I saw some tricks to it, and they're refutable. So if he planned for that, good job. If he didn't, he would find it. That's the way we look at it. We find another move. Okay, so I got to find another move. Well, if I don't play knight e5, he can't do any of the above, and his rook from a1 to d1 takes him off the a file. So what I can do is I can play a6 or rook e8. A6 goes about my business with trying to prepare b5. Rook e8 delays that push, but at the same time it clears f8 for my knight. So rook e8, if he goes to his knight g5 plan, I have knight f8, and he doesn't really have a useful way to penetrate my position. So I think rook e8's a better move, and just hold back on the a6 plan, but let's examine it for a moment before I play rook e8, aka a6. If he tries knight g5, I'm not ready for b5. The battle lines have been drawn there. He's he's covering b5 because I'm going to drop stuff. He's on it with 3 times. I'm on it once. So rook b8. Oh, I can't play rook b8 because knight comes in on e6. So I'm dropping the exchange. Before I was taking that knight off with my bishop. So rook e8 is the move to answer knight g5 with knight f8, and I'll just hold back on my plan of trying to break with b5 and await developments. Okay, so am I threatening knight e5 now? Well, probably not. Some of the same things hold true that did before. He'll get that d6 push in, and his pieces get active. So here his pieces do not get active. Okay, so again, rook e8 is, the purpose of that is to be able to play knight f8 to keep him out of e6. That's the one weak square in my camp, and it's not all that weak, simply because I'll have it covered, and he can't combine with anything. Unless he tries to maneuver a knight to g5, the other one to f4, but I can just take them both. He has a lot of maneuvering. I have plenty of time to do things between now and then. Okay, I'm still slow playing it, maintaining an equal position. Again, I'm not worried about knight b5. I'll just drop the queen back to b8. I'm not worried about him stopping me from playing b5 with an a4 theme. Eventually I'll find a way to get it in, or just sit on the position and make him find some other way to crack me, and just if he can keep me from setting up a counter break but not be able to do one of his own, he's holding his own. He will have achieved his aim, achieving an equal game against a theoretically stronger player. I don't always play like it, but this is the kind of competition he needs, and the kind of analysis that he'll benefit from when he sees this entire thought process. So I'm glad I selected this opening. There's quite a bit to it. Him being a d4 player or c4 or knight f3 player, he's going to run into Dutch formations, and this should give him a lot of ideas and strategies. Again, I don't even know when we left book. I don't know, maybe bishop e3 left book, but everything has been founded upon principles ever since, and there's been several branches of the tree of analysis that could have been played that weren't played, that certainly worth looking at to learn the themes. So this game has a lot to learn from his side, and ideally from mine too. I'm learning a little bit about it myself. Well, one of the drawbacks with knight g5 I forgot about was when he wasn't threatening, was I go play knight e5. But still, I think this is better than a6 right away. Depending on the outcome, he may not want me. He may just let me play b5. Of course, one drawback with rook f8, the e8, was I took myself off the e file or the f file, which if he does get e4 in, that's where the rook wants to be. But you know, it's a safe, solid move, and it's going to require Grandmaster to demonstrate why it's a bad move, and he can't do it. He might play b3 here simply to secure c4 a little better. It's loose in a few variations. Again, I'm not too worried about what he can do and won't do. I'm more concerned about maintaining a solid game and forcing him to find ways to probe it for to create any kind of weakness or create any kind of active play that he could try to justify to play for a win. And pretty much White needs to keep trying to probe and do these things, because if White just maintains an equal game for too long, eventually Black will find ways to do exactly what he wants to do. And if White's not aggressive, eventually Black will find a plan, and suddenly White could be on the defensive. Okay, bishop f4, a move I was expecting before. He's getting ready for e4. I'm prepared to answer knight g5 with knight f8. That's the whole purpose of rook e8. So what I need to do is just go about my business with a6. Even though I'm not preparing b5 yet, it's something I'm going to do at some point. Okay, so let's see, a6. I'm just going to play it because I know it's my move, and I'll analyze it. Okay, a6, get it over and done with. Okay, a6, e4. Okay, now if I take with my pawn, I'm opening up I'm opening up a lot of things. This should be good for me. Okay, f takes e4. He plays knight takes e4. Now I play knight takes e4, and he plays queen takes e4, and I'm win the pawn on b2. Bishop takes b2. What does he do? Queen e6 check. Ouch. Well, that's not so horrible, is it? What's he going to do? Follow up with knight g5. Okay, king has to get out of check. King g7, knight g5. Wow, 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 wow. Ouch. Yeah. Okay, so we gotta be. I can't grab the pawn on b2. Let's not be greedy here. What I need to do is just simply play knight f6 and chase his queen out. Okay, and yeah, I've got a backward pawn on e7 on the open file, but I'm not worried about that pawn. My pieces are coming to life. Okay, let's check this again. Okay, so e5, e4. If he plays e4, I take. He takes with the knight. I take with my knight. He didn't play it. He played a4. Okay, well, like I said, I wasn't worried about a4 in the first place. The reason being that I'm going to go about my plan, and the question is, if I believe my move is knight f8, what happens if What happens if he plays e4 then? See, this is where more time on the clock would be great. I would like to be able to answer that instead of having to solve it when I'm solve it now that it's a possibility. I would like to have that solved and over and done with. Yeah, I had time here to do it, but in a real game I'd have more time. Okay, so let's see. I can still go about preparing b5, and it's simple to attempt to prepare. But let's see, knight f8. This takes, see, the point is going back to the e4 line. This takes away a couple things, but allows some other ones. Okay, so e4. If I play knight f8, e4, knight f takes e4, knight takes e4. I even have bishop f5 almost, but has knight takes knight check, then get the queen out of there. Let's see. So I'll go ahead and take with the queen, with the knight. He takes back with the queen. Now I play bishop f5, and I'm on his queen. And queen e2. Okay. And my rooks are connected. I have a backward pawn on e7, which is not a problem. It's not something, it's not really a target for him. That could be later, but right now it isn't. And I can play moves like queen a5, which threaten the pawn on a4, and supports b5, because I'm going to get it in at some point. Yeah, knight f8 is the move. Of course, this leads, well, he can't really play a5 there because I'll just take it. That's one thing about the rook not being on a1, although I would be able to play b6 anyway and get the b file. So just knight f8 and let him find his plan. Okay, so the question has been put to White. How are you going to make progress here? I don't mind e4, although I think at some point he's going to do it. Even though I wasn't able to cover all the lines where it comes in, and still may not, because he could avoid it for a few other moves with moves like rook fe1 to have a little more pressure on e7, and it's all said and done. Even though I didn't cover everything like I would like to, intuition just tells me that black should be okay as long as I don't make an impulsive move and try to take advantage of any tricky move that he might come up with, because impulsive play just gets dealt with it in its own peculiar way. It's refuted. Okay, so if the drawback with e4 is it's going to probably exchange off his knight on c3, which takes one piece away from his queen side, which gives me some targets over there. Like I say, the queen a5 line will tempo a pawn. The queen b6 line may even tempo a pawn. I'm trying to snatch his queen knight pawn. So I'll get some counterplay over there on the queen side as planned. The only question is, will I be doing it with a bishop d7 and rook b8 maneuver first or not? I like to leave the rook on a8 as long as I can. Okay, good. There it came, e4. Now I know I need to take. Okay, so f takes e4, and I'm gonna. Do I need to rush after knight takes e4? He has to play knight takes e4. He doesn't have any other useful move here, right? Because his queen's under attack and his knight's under attack, so he has to take on with the knight. Now, my candidate moves would be bishop f5 and knight takes f6. Knight takes e4. Okay. Let's see, so okay, so what's he going to do? He did take. Now, I don't like bishop f5, let's just dispense with it. Okay, what was I saying? Knight h4. Well, I can take twice on e4. Knight takes, or bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, knight takes, queen takes. Now he's ready to play queen e6 check. No, he's not, because my knight's on f8. Those damn one movers. I can grab a pawn on b2. Is that worth it? g6 is well covered. So what else does he do besides knight h4? I'm threatening. He's got to do something, because he can always play knight takes. He can always play knight takes f6 check, and then I have two interesting recaptures. I can take with the pawn and get rid of my pawn, but then I've shut my bishop in, which may or may not be a bad thing. I'm covering g5, so he can't occupy that. The idea is the bishop gets activated later. Then my rook's on the open file, so justifying rook e8. And then he still has to deal with his queen, although d6 is a little weaker. He still has to deal with his queen. Then I have the e5 square suddenly comes to life. Gosh, f takes e6. F takes e6 is good. Since I'm keeping him out of e6, my knight no longer has to sit on f8. He moves his queen, say, to d2. I play knight d7. And he helps me if he plays bishop h6, I think. Then knight e5. Now I am on c4. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, he takes my knight off with his. Now I take back with the f-pawn. And if he trades bishops, he's got a lot of pawns stuck on white squares. My rook's off the f-file where it belonged, but it's okay there. He could play f4 himself. Yeah, that would open up, if I take, it opens up the long diagonal, but he gets a check, but my queen can always run over there and help out. And I've got the f-file blocked and the e-file is mine. And I still haven't played b5, but we're not ready to. So bishop f5 may be the move here, rather than taking and putting the bishop on f5. What are our alternatives? It gives him the option to go into this line, which I like for black. It maintains an equal game with suddenly some potential winning chances, because I'm going to get a slightly better bishop in the ending. So my style likes that move for that reason. So what can he do to upset the apple cart? That's what we have to determine. Okay, bishop f5. He has to guard the knight on e4 or take with check. He could play. I don't think knight g5 is enough. h6. Yeah. Knight e6. Going back to that idea, I just take his knight on e6, and d takes e6. Now my e-pawn is no longer weak, and I can make some exchanges on e4. Knight takes e4. Bishop takes e4. Okay, then I take on e4, he takes on e4, now he's threatening g6. So then what do? King h7, plays h4, threatening h5, putting it on a black square. That can't be any good. I always play queen c6 and accept double pawns because I'll have the open b file. Queen c6, queen back to c2, then h5, I may even get some counter-attacking chances here. My bishop can go to d4, and it looks like a pretty strong piece there. Okay, it's getting complicated. I like bishop f4, bishop f5 better, and we'll just see how he solves it. I can't solve everything again because of time on the clock, or I guess if I'm not making a video, I have more time on the clock because I do lose some valuable clock time making a video. That's unfortunately a drawback of making videos of live chess, but I'm not out to win every game. I'm out to play every game and be instructive with it. You know, I don't, like I said before, I don't have anything to prove in chess. I've proved it. When I actually go and sit down and play a live game over the board, I will have more time on the clock that I need, and I won't be making a video, and I'll figure these things out a little more carefully. Okay, so I'm expecting him to play knight takes f6 check, at which point I'm going to take back with the f-pawn and deactivate my bishop, but activate my rook on the e-file and prepare to redeploy my knight to e5. And that's my plan, and I think it's a good one. So his knight d2, knight fd2 was another candidate move. I don't mind that. That just deactivates his knight. I can just go about my business. Heck, I can even trade on e4 a couple times and be fine. So let's see. Knight fg5. I was playing what, h6. I don't have to. I can just go about my business. And heck, I could even play a gambit with b5. It's something I was thinking about earlier but didn't mention. The point is, he takes a takes, I take with my pawn, he takes with his b pawn. Now he's up a pawn, but he's not going to hold b5. He's not. And even if he does, he's going to go into a defensive mode, and I'll find ways to activate my game. And the thing with knight g5, it looks great, but he's not really threatening to go anywhere. e6 may be the idea to take and activate his bishop with control down to a8, but I have ample time to prepare against that. So knight g5 is an interesting move. I'll deal with it if it comes. I'll try to deal with it now so I save time on the clock. If white's going to try for a win, that's the move to try, simply because it's complex. But is it an impulsive move? Is it a move that white takes some risks by doing? Well, if he doesn't realize, if he takes on f6 with check, that my best move is to take with the e pawn. If he doesn't catch that, then he might not play knight g5. If he realizes my best move is to take with the e pawn, he might go for it. But again, I do have the possibility of just kicking that knight on h6 out. And again, it can go to e6, which I don't need to fear. Knight e6. Okay. It's on my queen, so I got to deal with it. I take with my knight on e6. He takes with the pawn. And as I was saying, I can he took. Okay, knight g5 was worth looking at, but now I'm taking with the f pawn, and I'm doing it instantly, so he knows it was a planned move. I want him to understand it was a planned move. I want him to realize, oh, why didn't I think of that? Because when he's actually playing a tournament game and somebody plays a quick move against him who's been taking their time, it was a planned move. Why didn't I think about it? Okay, so that eventually he'll start considering other possibilities. See, it seems natural to take with the bishop simply because it keeps the bishop activated. I've shut my bishop in. This seems to defy logic, but strategically it does a lot for black. It opens up the e5 square, puts it under my control, so I can go put my knight there. It keeps his knight out of g5. I don't care if he goes back to the idea of queen d2 and bishop h6 to trade it off. I don't care. I'm going to get active elsewhere. And right now his queen is under attack and gives me a tempo to start doing things I want to do. So that's where we're at now. Again, he's got one less piece on the queen side, so his A and B pawn are a little weaker than they used to be. I'm not attacking him now, but I could be doing so shortly. There's several variations where my queen will go to A5, but not yet. D6 is hanging. I've got to deal with that. Okay, so where's he going to put his queen? C3? Maybe. D2? Maybe. I guess it's one or the other, huh? Where else does he put it? B3? A3? Can't see those. Logic says I'll put it on D2. That's just logic, because who wants to put it on the same diagonal as my bishop on the dark square? But I'm not threatening to push F5. Not close. Let's just put on Queen D2, and then I go about my business and play Knight E7 or D7. Okay, now clearly my plan is to play Knight E5. How can he stop it? He can't. So he plays Bishop H6, and again, I don't care if he takes it. On my bishop, I play Knight E5. Now I'm tempoing his pawn on C4, so he either has to stop and guard it, or take my knight, or take my bishop, and then stop and guard the pawn. So let's suppose he plays B3. Okay. Now, since I'm on the E file, do I want to, do I want to take back with a rook or a pawn? I was earlier considering taking back with a pawn, but I could be planning to take with a rook at some point too. I could play knight takes F3 if I want, followed by rook E7, and I'm getting doubled on the file. I was looking at taking back with the F pawn, but I think nothing wrong with taking with the rook. Keeps the game level and gives me some possible development ideas. Okay, so again, he played Queen D2. I want to show him what my plan was by playing it quickly and saving clock time. Knight D7, and there's my idea. The knight's going to E5. That's my idea. So my knight served its purpose well. It went to F8 for preventative maintenance against a knight E6. And after all is said and done, even I've completed my development. Who's ahead in development? It's about the same. I haven't developed my queen rook. Arguably, when you castle, you're developing your king rook. So theoretically, development is about even, I guess. If he plays rook E1, then he's further developed that rook, but I've caught up in development. I was behind earlier. Again, that was never going to be a major worry. My point now is I'm going to play Knight E5 next, and may have to take with the E pawn. If his minor pieces go off the E5 square, then I could be taking back with the rook, or if he doesn't take at all, I might exchange on F3 and then double my rooks. And nothing wrong with doubling the rooks. Keep his queenside pawns where they are at, even though I may never break with A5. The pawns could become weak in a lot of lines. So let's see. Time is getting closer. I have 22 minutes. He has 23 minutes. I wonder if anyone was watching this game. I haven't even looked. 5:22. Who's here? Yosemite Sam and Kingfisher here. Hello, guys. I know you both. Okay, so plenty of time to find a plan. Plenty of time to go wrong for both sides. E6 is still a weak square for me, but he's not exploiting it. He can't get in there. B2 is a weakness for him. And with a queen to B6, I can pressure it. Queen to A. Well, I can't play queen to A5. He's stopping it, but it's tying his queen down to D2. So what's happening here? What's he going to do? My main analysis was covering bishop h6. What if he plays rook e1? Well, then I play knight e5 and offer to trade some stuff off. And if he doesn't, and I'm threatening c4, so if he doesn't trade, he plays b3, and I play a move like, I can play queen b6 there and attack the pawn again, make him defend it. I can play rook e7, so that maybe the other rook comes to f8, and I'm prepared for doubling on the f file if he exchanges on e5 and I take back with my f pawn. I have plenty of options here. My position is equal. I'm not hurting at all. This is the kind of position he'd like to have h3 already played in, so he can play g4, but even then I have bishop e4, but I don't know. What's he going to do? Time is almost even. Where's he going to go? Interesting move is b4 on his part. The idea is take on c5. Now that's no good. I'll just take back with my knight. I have a weak d-pawn, but then my knight's posted great, and he has some pretty sick pawns, c4 and a4. Okay, bishop e3. Huh. Okay. Well, maybe he's playing knight h4. So I think it's time to put the question to his c-pawn and his knight. So knight e5 seems to be my move. Do I want to play it quick, or do I want to think about it? What other candidate moves do I have? Rook e7, knight h4. Where does my bishop go? e4. He plays f3. Ouch. So that's out of the question. Knight e5 it is. Okay. Let's put the question to his knight and his c-pawn. Okay, so he's either got to trade my knight or protect his c4 square. So if he takes my knight, do I want to take with the d-pawn under any circumstances? No, I do not. So I'll set up a pre-move here. It won't let me set up a pre-move here. Oh, there. That's how you do it. Okay, so if he takes, I'm going to pre-move him. And he did. All right. Save this a couple seconds on the clock by doing that. Okay, so now knights are off. It's bishops and queens and rooks. Interesting ending. These are always interesting. Okay, so I'm off the f-file. He can try to get the f-file himself with f4, but my bishop on f5 blocks it. We've already discussed this. And by playing f4, he also activates my bishop on g7 that I blocked in voluntarily. So, time to get up and stretch my legs again. Be right back. Very interesting. He did what I do, or did what I do, did what I did. He blocked in his own bishop. Well, his bishop wasn't going anywhere anyway. Well, so far I'd say White's playing pretty well. there's no demonstrable win for black. Does black have an advantage? I think black has equality. Let's talk about winning chances here. It's going to boil down to some kind of an ending. Rook ending, bishop ending, queen ending, combination thereof. Which bishop would I rather have? Well, I guess I'd rather have my light-squared bishop. He's got some targets, so we don't want to trade it off. Although if it does get traded off, so what? You know, what can I do in the meantime? One advantage of my queen being on c7 is that I'm keeping him out of a5 and trying to go there myself. So suppose I play queen d7, the idea being to attack his pawn on a4. Well, I think g4 kind of messes that up. Okay, so my bishop gets to give itself up for a couple pawns. Okay, so of course a neat thing too, the bishop on f5 can always drop to d7, and that gains a tempo. So it prepares for b5. My question is, do I want to do anything? Do I want to do anything with my rook on a8 or keep it there? See, like I said, I can play b5 right now and sacrifice a pawn. If he takes, I take. He takes. Okay. Now, I've got the a file. I can stick my rook on b5. Well, one problem though is with all this is he may end up getting to trade off his light-squared bishop, because the only way I can win the pawn back with b5, if his bishop guards on an f1, is to trade those bishops. So I don't have to sack the pawn. It's just an idea, keep in the back of the head. I can just go prepare for b5. And one way to prepare for b5 is to play bishop d7. There's bishop d7 prepares for it, and it gains a tempo on his pawn. Right? Okay. So the problem is if I wait for see if he's going to play g4 to do it. I don't really see a useful move to do in the meantime. Bishop d7. If he plays bishop f1, that's kind of a logical move. If he plays bishop f1, oh, I just take on a4. That's right, I'm tempoing his pawn. And if I waste any other move, he may very well play bishop f1. So I'm just going to play bishop d7 right now and make him commit to guarding that. And I think I get my b5 break in, and I should be able to keep the light-squared bishops on. Okay. So, like I said, this just puts the question to his pawn. How's he going to handle that? He can't afford to give up a pawn, because then he'll just be playing and ending a pawn down. Well, it's still a middle game, but he's not going to win his pawn back. He's going to eventually enter in ending a pawn down. So now I'm able to get my plan in. So black is finally equalized and has a little initiative. So for what it's worth, it took a lot of work to get this far. So he's good. He's getting better. You know, if you get a bad game against a master in 20 moves, maybe you're only 1800, 1700. If you have a slight disadvantage against a master in 20 moves, maybe you're a legit 2000, or at least playing like at one game. Okay, so well, he's not threatening bishop f1 at any point. What am I thinking of? His rook's on f8, on f1. Well, this is fine and dandy. It doesn't matter that I didn't want to sack the pawn. There was no need to sacrifice the pawn. It was a potential move. My bishop has done what it can do on that diagonal. It drove his queen away. That it can always go back if need be, but right now it's preparing the b5 break. So on b3, I'm going to play b5, and nothing you can do about it. And I'm on the a file, so a takes b5, a takes b5, rook a1. He's countering it. I can take on C4. I can even push by to B4. I can tactic him with E4 at some point, activating my bishop. There's a lot of black certainly has some play here. White's handed a slight initiative over to black simply because I'm getting the breaks here. I'm going to be breaking with B5, and he can't stop it. He could play Queen C2, but the drawback with Queen C2 is that I get Queen A5 in, and I'm on his pawn all over again. See, Queen C2, Queen A5, B3. Now his idea is to chase my queen out with Bishop D2. So I play B5, and he plays Bishop D2. And I don't put the queen on B6. He might tempo it with A5, although it might be okay. I just put on C7. He can still play A5, but so what? I take on C4 and take over the B file. And he can't really oppose the B file because my bishop returns to F5. So, slighted, maybe very, 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 very slighted black here. Maybe. I might be missing something. I don't know what. So what if black has an advantage here? What did white do wrong? White did very little wrong. It's just he didn't maybe play the most interesting moves. Like I was saying, instead of knight takes F6 check back on move 16, knight Fg5 was an interesting move, worth more investigation. His bishop did lose some time. The dark square bishop lost some time moving to E3 and F4 and back to E3 again. But then again, my queen knight, it did a little dance. It went to D7, F8, back to D7, and then E5. It moved 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So we've both done our little shifting of pieces around, moving them a little more than they normally do. I guess the point was, if anything, white's basically, his pawns are a little more extended than black's. That's one of the reasons why black has some targets, because black's picked his moment to break with B5. In the bingo gambit, the B5 break comes, what, on move 3, move 4? It comes quick. In the French defense, the C5 break for black comes quick, maybe move 3, move 4, whatever. It's fast. In a Nimizovic defense, the C5 break can come, but it takes a while because there's a knight on C6 blocking it. So here, my break came later. I basically prepared for it by making sure everything else was covered first. And then the break goes, okay. Now I don't mind A5 because I'm going to get the B file. And I was talking about that. The way to do it is to force an en passant capture, and see. So A5. Okay, I play B5, and this basically forces an en passant capture, and then. Because if he doesn't, I'm just going to take on C4, and I'm going to have the B file. So, and if he takes with this C pawn, I could take with my A pawn, and I'll probably surround that pawn in A5 and win it here quick. Because if he guards it with Rook A1, I can just play B4, and now it's in trouble. He's going to lose it. I'll end up surrounding it. A6, Queen B6, and on Queen D3 he drops more than his pawn. I play Bishop B5, and I'm hurdling his Rook on F1. I don't even need to win the exchange. I'll keep the bishops on and just grab the pawn and run. Okay, B5 is my move. Let him take en passant, and I take back with the queen, and And he has a weakness on B2. And he has... I don't have the A file, but I have the B file. And I can keep him off the B file maybe with bishop F5 at the right time. But I got to go for what I can go for, and this is what he's given me. So, slight advantage black maybe. You know, just can't rush any move or stop and forget to think and just say anything wins and throw the game away. Okay, did take en passant as expected. Okay. Now for what it's worth, I have the open B file. For what it's worth, I can shove my pawn to A3. For what it's worth. For what it's worth, I can stick a rook on the B file and pressure B3. How's he? Does this put him in defensive mode? Does he have to try to stick the bishop on C1 and find a new home for the queen? Queen E2 to answer rook AB8 with bishop C1. Well, then I've got him defending. That's exactly what I want. Then I start improving the position of my pieces. My queen can come into B3 maybe. My bishop can do my dark square bishop. How can I activate that? Well, maybe by pushing E4 at the right moment, if there is a right moment. I don't know. Let's just have to wait and see. I'm up 4 minutes on the clock now. I hope this doesn't get into a time scramble of some sort. So, white. We both have. Okay, what are black's weaknesses? The D6 pawn is weak, but it's not easily accessible. The A6 pawn is weak because it's isolated, but it's also protected twice and guarded and attacked none. I don't quite understand rook DE1. How's he going to answer? Oh, he wants to answer with rook B8 with... He had a mouse slip. Take back. Okay. How do we... He had a mouse slip. How do we let him take it back? And he doesn't take... That's... Okay. I hope you have Skype on, my friend, because it's the only... Okay. How do we allow a take back? I want to allow you a take back. I do. Okay, where's take back? Style width. Is even on Skype? Okay, at least you saw that. Okay, I'm trying to turn takebacks on. How do I turn takebacks on? Where's Bears? I thought it was just set take back 0 or something, and that did it. Where's take back? No, set no take back. Okay, not set. No take back 0. Let's see if that did it. Okay. Try to take back. Okay, how do we accept? Where's the pop-up? How do I accept? Accept? I heard a pop-up. Where'd it go? You're not being currently challenged. Oh, this is wonderful. Where's the pop-up? Okay. This isn't Ring, it's your video. Where's the game? You're not... Yeah. Oh, use take back. Okay. Take back. Okay, we got it figured. Alright. I thought you were planning Rook E2 to guard your B2 square. Hey, Rook F2. Okay, that's fine. I don't care what your move is. I just want you to be able to play a good game. My move. What do I do? Oh, I can play Bishop A4 here. What's that do? It prepares to put the bishop on B3 and counterattack C4. I don't know. Is that what I want to do? I need to find a candidate move. I have a 4-minute clock advantage and a very slight, maybe positional advantage. Of course, who knows what the silicone beasts say. Okay, anyway, that's fine. I don't care why you did it. I don't care if you get a take back. I would give take backs in ICC if people were more friendly instead of so stone cold and egotistical. I believe in playing take back. What's the point of winning a game on a blunder? Let the guy play another move and learn something about the game. Okay, I need a plan. Okay, I'm not gonna hunker down and win B2 now. Okay, what I need to do is activate things so that I win something later. If I play Bishop A5, he needs to cover his rook. Okay, so what's he going to do? Rook C1, maybe. Now I play Bishop B3. And what am I doing with that? I'm attacking C4. He's got to go through maneuver Bishop F1 to E2 to D1, or Bishop F1 to D3 to C2 to oppose me. What can I do in the meantime? Well, I can shove my A-pawn up to A4 and let him take. And then I'll get a pawn on B3 in the open A file. So that's an idea. I'd like to activate my dark squared bishop, but I don't see a way just yet. So ideally, as I said, my better bishop is the dark squared bishop. If I play Bishop A4, I'm not going to chase a rook out of B1, but let him sit there, let him defend. Okay, Bishop A5, Rook B1. Okay, Bishop B3. My bishop is there for the duration, and he has to guard. Now he still has to guard C4, so he does it with Bishop F1. Okay, now I play A5, and he plays Bishop E2, and I play A4, and he plays Bishop D1. Okay, what's he accomplished? He's ready to trade his dark squared bishop, or light squared bishop. That's what he's accomplished. So it's my move. What do? Do I accommodate him and take it, and replace the queen, or replace the bishop with the queen on B3, maybe? Bishop takes, queen takes, queen B3. Now if he takes my queen, I take with the pawn, and I'm ready to double my rooks on the A file, and C4 is still a weakness. Okay, I can't waste a lot of time. I got to activate my pieces. This gains a tempo, so that's what I'm going to do. Bishop A4. It looks like the right plan. I've got to improve the position of all of my pieces, and I can only do them one at a time. So first step is improve the light squared bishop, and if you trade it, good for you. I'm still going to have a decent initiative here. Okay, that's what I'm trying for. I certainly won't lose the game. If he can hold a draw, great. You know, he's definitely showing improvement. I'm happy if he holds a draw. That's the whole objective. Get him better than I am. What do I need to be better than this guy for? I don't. Answer is I don't. If it weren't for the internet, we never would have met. So what would it matter if he didn't get better than me or not? It wouldn't. But I know him, so the idea is make him stronger than I am. That's the idea. Okay, so hopefully there's no blunders here from either side, and we can see this game continue to be played out. Okay, can White do any counterplay? Well, the counterplay is on the king side, and I have enough of a queen side activation or infestation maybe here that I can always shift over the king side if I have to, right? Okay, so I can stick a rook back on f8 at a moment's notice, and my queen can go to my second rank at a moment's notice. So I shouldn't be too worse for the wear should that happen. Right now, I say the idea here is to put the bishop on b3 and advance my a pawn, and maintain some kind of a piece deep in the heart of his position the whole game that I can use to keep the middle game going in Black's favor and make a transition to the ending with the pieces still in my favor. So, Truxton, this is how you beat experts. Because you're close to being expert. This is how you beat experts. Hope I can't say it any clearer. Okay, now I just play another automatic move because this was my plan. My plan was to infest your queen side, and I'm going to continue to infest your queen side. I'm playing a5 and a4, and you're not going to stop it. So go ahead, put your bishop on f1. Go ahead, trade it off. I don't care. You want to get rid of light squared bishops anyway, but this is what I could get out of it. I'll get you what you want, but and you're still going to have to guard c4 before you get the bishop to d1, so I've got time to do a few maneuvers here. So am I threatening bishop a2 at any point? Well, maybe at some point. Rook, one of my rooks to b8 could be threatening that. Again, I don't mind if he plays bishop h6. I never did. Although that could loosen my king up a little bit. I have to watch out for the position opens up over there. But as I said, my pieces can get back real quick. Okay. What's he do now? What does he do now? He's got to guard c4. Bishop f1 is the logical way to do it. Okay? So he shouldn't be spending time on the clock. And I have new possibilities here. Queen b4, inviting a queen exchange so that I get this outside pass pawn potential. That's certainly a candidate move. But Truxton, this is how you beat experts, because you're playing close to expert strength in this game. And you can see it's taking a lot to to do this to you. I'm having to work and come up with moves. But it's all based on looking at a few candidate moves, knowing what's going on, and not taking any risks, recognizing that I had a couple of impulsive moves, and when to sit on the position and how to sit back and wait and stay solid. This is how you beat them, because that's the key. Okay, queen b3 or d3, so he's back there. Okay, that's fine. How do I continue? If I play queen b4 and he plays bishop f1, he's getting ready for bishop d2 to chase me out. So queen b4 may be a waste. If I play bishop a2, I'm not threatening. I'm threatening the rook, but I'm not going after capturing on b2 because it's guarded. So, what's his idea here? Not sure what his idea is. If I get the pawn to a4, that's the objective, and just wave it there, then I get new options. A6 is clear for the queen to attack C4, plus stick a rook on the B file. Maybe put it on B7 too, so that if I need to shift over the king side, I can even double on the king side just as quick as he, or nearly as quick. He can double on the king side right away. Of course, one thing with bishop, having my bishop on B3, I'm no longer attacking B2, but it's defended. So, but I'm pressuring C4, which ties his queen down. I like that. Okay, so A5 is my move, and we wait developments. Okay, A5, and again, I'm just trying to infest his position. That's all I'm trying to do. He's trying to hold the position, so I get to dictate what happens next. Oh, he played there. That's a good move. Okay, well, he gets a check, but that's all he's going to get. Not too worried about that. Okay. So let's see. If I play Queen A6... No, we can't play Queen A6. My bishop hangs. Queen B4. I'm threatening C4. He gives a check. I play King H8. He needs to cover C4. He can do it with Rook C1. Okay. Now, what do I do? Meanwhile, he's ready for Bishop D2 to chase me out. What do I do next? Let's see. I don't know if Queen B4 just doesn't seem right. Okay, A4, Bishop E6 check, King H8. Now I'm not threatening anything. How do I continue? Well, what I need to do is activate my dark squared bishop, but it's doing a good job where it's at. It's keeping my king safe. He's trying to draw. Well, if he has a draw, he has a draw. Nothing I can do about it if he can find the right moves. Let's see if he can find them. You know, my plan was step by step. First one is grab some space here. I did so at the cost of him getting a bishop on E6. Okay, fine. What's his follow-up? H4, H5? You know. Okay, I don't have to play. Let's see, Queen B4. What was I saying? Queen B4, he plays Rook C1. Okay? Now, or he checks first, I go King H8, then he plays Rook C1. Now, what do I do? I can even go through the maneuver Queen A4, followed by Rook B8, Rook B4. Of course, he has time to launch his plan. Okay, so Rook C1, Queen A4, H5. Now he's threatening H4. Rook B8. Let him play H5. Okay, now what do I do? I take it. Now he plays Bishop F5. Okay, let him have it. I play Rook B4. He takes on H7. Got my kings loose. And I play Rook takes C4. Now I'm active on, well, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm up a pawn. Rook takes C4. My H5 is weak, but I'm not too worried about that. Queen H5 attacking, or G6 attacking my rook. Yeah. Rook takes C1 check just for the sake of doing it. Bishop takes C1. Oh, my rook's safe. The point is because the queen's guarding it. Now I just go gobble a pawn on D5, And he takes on H5. Now he's threatening some mean, nasty discovered checks. So if I play queen, God, this is wild. I like the idea, surround the pawn on c4, and then try and survive this. There's got to be an improvement in this position. I have queen d1 check, but then my rook's loose, and he's threatening a multitude of discoveries. I say queen c6. And he plays bishop g6 check and wins the rook on e8. I'm gonna go. My gut says to go with this plan. Try and surround the weakness. Queen b4. Let's see what he does. Again, I don't mind the check. I don't mind the infestation. If I'm careful, I have defenses. That was one line. I'm sure there's better in there for black, because I certainly don't have to carry on all those moves to go surround his c4 pawn. But you know, we'll see. Maybe. Oops. Why does this have to happen? Okay. Sorry about that. Mouse slip, and it made the board shrink. I fixed that easily enough. Okay, so he's going to play bishop a6 check, or e6 check. I won't pre-move this, because who knows, maybe he won't. Then I'd be embarrassed and have to ask for my own take back. Okay, so I have a He could also play bishop d7 just to keep my queen out of a4, but now he's got to guard c4 first. Well, he's on my rook, but I can take it c4 with my bishop and be attacking his queen. So he's going to have to deal with c4 at some point. Let's just tie him up so he has to deal with it. Okay, so queen b4. Okay, now, do I... Oh, he didn't do it. He didn't check. So, okay, so I got to do this carefully. Now, one defense, if I play rook b8, is he plays bishop d7, and then bishop b5, stopping queen a4. That's interesting. I thought he would check. I mean, most people would check just to get it, you know, pots or see a check, pots or give a check, kind of thing. So let's see. He didn't check yet, so that's okay. If I play rook ab8, as I said, he could play bishop b5, and I play rook e7. He plays bishop b5. So what I do in that case, I can even sacrifice the exchange. Maybe rook takes b5. I don't know, but aside. Rook takes b5, just look at it, and then push c4, and then follow up with queen takes b5, and I've got these wonderful bishops. His rooks don't look all that great, and I'm going to get a pass pawn running here, or pawns running here in a bit. Almost willing to try it just for the practice of it, because I think black should be fine, although I don't necessarily have to do it. Rook b okay, so on bishop, okay, rook b8, bishop d7, rook e7, bishop b5. I can go ahead and play bishop a4, and he this almost compels him to take. I think stick the bishop back on c6, but I don't know, bishop c6. I'll just take it. Although he gets a passed pawn and control of the d5 square. I don't know. Don't have to take it. Let it sit on c6. And what do? Put my queen on b3. Queen b3. He ignores the queen trade. And but with queen d2. And at some point, I need to play e4 and get my dark squared bishop in. Okay, so what was my move here? Of course, I can play queen a4 directly and stop bishop d7, but I kind of like the idea of giving up the exchange if it's possible, because I think him not having a light squared bishop in this position he's in trouble. Rook b8. I could play queen a4 directly, but I also want to disguise that move for a moment. The idea here is to play queen a4 when he doesn't have recourse, although theoretically he could play bishop d2 at any moment in here and upset the apple cart, so to speak. We'll see what happens. I can't again look at everything because I'm in an early time pressure. The game is 2 hours and 13 minutes long. Normally, a lot of games that long are in tournaments that are still on move 15 to 20, and here we are at move 27. These are the players that consume more than an hour for their first 20 moves. Objectively in a 40 move and 2 hour time control, you're going to spend 20 moves in the first hour and 20 moves the second hour. Well, a lot of people will spend over an hour on their first 15 moves. And, if you play the right openings, theoretically you can spend 10 minutes on your first 20 moves, or 10 minutes on your first 12 moves at least, to say this 5 minutes, leaving plenty of time for the rest of your game. Well, he went ahead and played bishop d7. That's what I wanted him to play. Interesting. Okay, so now, as I was saying, I put the rook on e7, which attacks his bishop for what it's worth. So it does make him find a new home for it. Okay. Now, I'm not so much worried about my king's safety in this line as in the other line. So let's see. He did play it. Wow. Okay, so as I was saying, I want to sacrifice the exchange here. I don't have to. What happens if I don't? How do I win? Well, he's covered his weaknesses. So let's see. Rook takes b5, a takes b5, c4. Where does he go with the queen? e4? I'm taking on b5. And I've got these... My dark squared bishop isn't so hot yet, but it's still a good piece. So let's make him defend. Okay, let's look at this objectively, since you'll see this later. White may be defending this now. He's got his weakness covered, c4, and he found it by getting his bishop to b5. I can't pile up on c4 anymore. I can't pile up on b2. He's blocked the b file. So I could play a4 and offer a draw, right? Because how else, does my bishop get out of there? Or I could play bishop a4 and offer a draw, and I imagine he would take it. But rook takes b5 just keeps. Gosh, I want to play it so badly, and I want to play it quickly, but I can't play it quickly because I got to explain myself. Okay, rook takes b5. I've been planning it for a while, so it's not like it's a surprise. Rook takes b5, a takes b5, c4. Now he's got to move his queen. Queen d2, fine. Queen takes c4, and I'll keep my bishop here. If he plays bishop h6, I'll bring the bishop back to h8 and just keep it, because I want to get that bishop activated too. And I only have a pawn for the exchange, but I'm going to have a pass pawn. And okay, I'm just going to do it. Because, hey, if he beats me, then he learns something. If it doesn't work, he learns something. That's the objective, is to teach this guy chess. I don't care if he beats me. And I've always said that. I want him to learn. That's why he's taking lessons from me, so he can learn. So what better way than to give him potential winning chances, to create a strategic imbalance in a position he was trying to blockade. Okay, so now we play c4 and make him find a home for his queen. So, as I was saying, I don't mind if he trades dark squared bishops and he still has it. Now, I'm glad he hasn't, because I would like to use my dark squared bishop. So to justify this sacrifice, I have to find a way to get it into play. Doesn't have to come into play right now. When I pushed f6, I was taking out a play for the longest time. But it's time for me to just get up and stretch my legs for a minute, and I'll be back. Okay, so we have a positional sacrifice that we're waiting for him to move on. Positional exchange sacrifice. I'm going to win a pawn back. Objectively, white has more material than black. A rook for a bishop and a pawn. What does black have in return? Black has a lot. Still has the counterplay going in full stream on the queen side, and the initiative in the position. Okay, so you played queen e4. Now I need to take on b5. Do I need to do it now? Do I have any other candidate move? No, I don't. I'm not so worried about f4 coming in, although I've got f8 and f7 covered, so I'll just take on b5 and continue play. So ideally, what black would like to do to win this is make a pass pawn and win some material with it, win a piece, win the exchange, and keep an extra pawn. White would like to get bishop of opposite colors if that happens, and try to find a way to draw. That's how one of the ways white could try for a draw. To get a bishop opposite color, he would have to give up his rook for my dark squared bishop. That's not happening right away. Okay, it's not happening right away because my dark squared bishop is not in play. So candidate moves for him. Bishop G5. Where will I put the rook? F7. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. Bishop G5, rook F7, F4. Now that's going to activate my bishop, though. He gets some material off. E takes, activating the bishop. How's he take back? I've got E8 covered. I don't have E6 covered. So let's see. If he plays rook takes F4, if I play rook takes F4, he can stop and check first. Ooh, that's an ouch. No, it's not necessarily an ouch. Okay, he played H4, but just to analyze this out real quick. Rook takes check, king H8. Now bishop takes F4. Now I've got to cover C8. Of course, B2 is hanging, and I have a queen check on C5 or B6, and I have a bishop check. I need to keep my rook on the board. I can't really trade it off. I'm thinking H4 might be a little impulsive on his part. I think he should have tried to strive for I think bishop G5 was a better move, but then I don't have to put my rook on the F file and trade it off. I can put it back on E8 and cover F7, if anything, with the queen, regroup and maintain my queenside initiative. Okay, so let's see. I got to deal with the move at hand. I've said what I want to say about his candidate move bishop G5 that he didn't play, that he can examine on his own, and we will do a little bit in the postmortem when we get there. Okay, so let's see. Bishop played H5. Okay, he's planning to play H4. Fine. Or H5. Fine. What do I want to do in the meantime? Like I say, my idea is to advance my queenside pawns as best as they can. Right at the moment, they can't really do much. I can get one to A4. Either do it now or later. Again, I'd like to activate my I would like to activate my dark squared bishop, but I can't see it happening just yet. How about if I play Queen E8? The purpose of Queen E8 is that if he gets ambitious with H5, I might just take it. And my queen is guarding it, although he can pile up on it with rook H1. Okay, or rook H2. So Queen E8, H5, I take. He plays rook H2. Now he's not threatening it yet, but I just play something like Queen G6 and offer to trade queens and defend H4. So he plays Queen H5, attacking my rook and attacking my pawn, and threatening a check on D8. And I can go play something super tactical like Queen D3, offering my rook. And because if he takes it, I take his bishop with check. And then his king goes to G2, otherwise I take on A1 or C1 with check, so I pick up on C1, and he may have a draw. Queen E6 check, King F8. I have two bishops. Queen E6 check. I can't play King H8. I have to play King F8. I think I can get out of that. Okay, Queen E8. Hunker down. Queen E8. He might play G4 too. He might still go back to the bishop G5 theme. But my rook can go over to the B file. No, yeah, it can. Okay, so I don't know, maybe black doesn't have compensation here. I think he does. I wouldn't have played it if I didn't think so. Simply because when you have two bishops on the board, even though I can't use my dark squared bishop just yet, when you have two bishops on the board, good things can happen in an open position for those bishops. And the simple fact that eventually I can and will create a passed pawn on the queen side, it just further magnifies the potential that the bishops have. So let's see. Oh wow, time's really down. We both have under 4 minutes with a 30-second increment. Dang it. 16:30 is just still too quick for us, guy. And there's a lot of chess to be played. The best chess is coming, and we're both in time pressure. So, all 522. Who's sticking around? Are Yosemite Sam and Kingfish still here? No, Kingfish is. Okay, so. Yeah, if I play pawn to a4, wow. That bishop is anchored. Okay, he played g4. But again, we're not so worried about him playing h5. Okay, like for instance, if it's white, okay, if I play a4, which I may play, he plays h5. Okay, I don't have to take. I can take back on g6 with my queen and exchange queens here and get rid of a lot of the pressure and get my passed pawn. So g takes, now I'll grab the pawn, and then I have a second pawn for the exchange. He gets some open lines, and I'm threatening queen g6, trading queens. Okay, so since I have to move quick, a4 is the move, and we await developments. Yeah, I'd like to be able to sit and discuss that for a while, but unfortunately, with the clock winding down, it's just not a luxury. The purpose of a4, it double secures the bishop, and no matter which pawn I end up eventually pushing, the other one will be securing the bishop, and the bishop will be securing the passed pawn. So he's going to have to stay and blockade that passed pawn. At which point I'll try to drive his blockade away, and I do that, okay, by having two bishops. Okay, so he's planning h4. Okay, fine. We can almost even let him. Let's see. What to do? I have to have 3.5 minutes to find a move here. Let's see. Well, if he does, I just let him. Okay, I just let him. If he takes, I take back with the g pawn. So I take back with the queen, guarding h7 and offering to trade queens. So what I need to do is get my rook activated so that I can prepare either a3 or c3. I can't play rook to a7, it hangs. We just let him play h5 here. Okay, I have 2.5. Just under 3 minutes. I get 30-second increment every move. Suppose I play queen f7. That's a nice waiting move. Okay, he goes ahead with h5, and then if I play rook b5 or rook b7, if he does nothing, I could be playing rook b5, and I'm pressuring d5. So since d5 is weak, I need to pile up on it, and I don't mind if he shoves those pawn all the way down to f6. I think that helps me. Okay, so queen f7, and I have 2.5 minutes left. He has 3.5 minutes left. So we let him play h5, and then I'm going to play rook b5 with the idea of rook b7 with the idea of rook b5. And as long as I don't miss something where he gets a way to check me on the back rank, although that may not be a problem, as long as I don't miss anything, I should be okay. So here I want to, as I say, I'm going to counterattack d5. Although maybe he can give it up. I don't know if he can give it up. I can cover d6 pretty well. You know, my d6 pawn would then be exposed on the open file, but I should be okay out of that. Okay, so queen f7. I don't care if he plays h5. I'll play rook b7. Now, what's he going to do? If he plays h6, where does my bishop go? Well, it probably should go to f8, because if it goes to h8, he might play g5, and my bishop's entombed. So bishop f8 keeps an eye on h6, and he plays g5 anyway. And I play rook b5. Now he needs to play rook d2 to guard his square. And ooh, look, I have queen f5 coming in when I want to play it. Maybe I'll increase a little pressure first somehow, way, shape, or form. Improve the position of my pieces a little bit. Maybe bishop e7 and find it, and maybe even send the king over to the queen side. Just an alternative. Oh, it's my move. How did I miss it? It was my move. Okay, where's he? He's planning to put the bishop on b5. God, if I hadn't looked at the board, I would have lost on time. Okay, rook b7 stops bishop b5. And it prepares rook b7 stops bishop b4, and it prepares rook b5. So I have a threat here. He needs to move his bishop again so he can defend d5. Okay, so now bishop c3. Okay, now rook b5 comes in. I need to have a plan here. Okay, so then after this, then I'm going to attempt to activate my dark squared bishop. Okay, so rook b5. I think it forces rook d2. Ooh, then I can play bishop h6, forcing g5, then bring my bishop back, and have queen f5 at my disposal. And then bishop go to f8 to e7 to d8, and finally get into play on b6 while he's doing his blockade. Okay, so he played there. Okay, so now I think I want to play bishop g7 for the reason I explained. Let me just take a quick look and see if anything better in my 2 minutes. Okay, so meanwhile, like I say, I've got him tied down. So bishop h6, g5. I play bishop f8 and wait developments. I could play queen f4. Do I want to play queen f4? Queen f4, he takes, I take back. He trades bishops. My king comes up, and he has the e-file. Since I'm, ooh, that could be dangerous. Okay, bishop h6. Okay, bishop h6, forcing g5. And now the bishop goes to f8. Now an interesting move for him to play f4, giving up a pawn. What's that do? It gives his bishop some tactical possibilities. But I'll just take with the queen and offer to trade queens. Okay, so now I think I play queen f5 here. I think. Let's see, 2.5 minutes. I got plenty of time. I don't want to rush a move. Queen f5. He either trades queens or he retreats his queen. And then my queen has some potential new targets it can attack on his king side. Okay, so queen f5. Where does he put the queen if he declines a trade? e2. Well, suppose I just play queen f4. Queen f4 attacks h4. Queen takes on f5. I take with a g pawn. Now he has a pawn majority on the king side, but he can't really do much with it. And as I say, my bishop is going to get into play. So now it's time for queen f5. Would you like to trade queens? I would. Okay. I have 2 minutes 11 seconds. Plenty of time. He has 3 minutes 11 seconds, and we have a 3-minute or 30-second increment. So I might have to spend less time looking at my three-dimensional full-size chess set, more time looking at the board here shortly. But let's see. I'll do a pre-move in case he takes my queen. I need that time. So if he takes, I take back with the G-pawn. And I even have the possibility of making a passed E-pawn at some point. Although it's not something I'm going to do right away. I can also even go up, try, if he trades queens, try a minority attack on his pawns. The idea being to weaken one and have another target. And if I win it, then I've got 2 pawns for the exchange and a couple of good bishops. Although, you know, my bishop on B3 isn't all that active. It's in a way it's almost like a dead piece there, but its ideas are for the long run. What's it going to do later? And later, what it's going to do? It's going to support my eventual pass pawn, which will, I guess, more likely be the C pawn than the A pawn. He's blockading the C pawn from advancing. But then, like I say, the idea is to drive the blockader away so I can advance it. And that would mean maybe trading off the dark squared bishops. And since I'm finally going to get my bishop activated, that is closer to happening. So, unfortunately, we both have little time. So, as long as I'm careful, I should be okay here. And he should be okay for a while here too. It's just yeah. I hope he doesn't make a blunder. You know, it's just like I hope I don't make a blunder. We've got an extremely interesting ending coming up here. We're still in the middle game. Even if we trade queens, we're still in the middle game. But we're close to the ending. One more exchange of material, and it's an ending. A rook and 2 bishops against a rook, 2 rooks and a bishop. I guess maybe that is an ending. But we're still in the middle game now. Okay, he took a queen. That's fine. And as I say, my plan is to activate my dark squared bishop. That's my plan. And it's going to get there by way of E7 to D8 to B6. And potential of trying a minority attack, but I don't really see the purpose of that. It just doesn't make sense, because then the lines will open up for his rooks. It's let him. I think he play H5. I could play Bishop E7, G6. Now he takes. G6 is now weak, and since I'm secure on the queen side, I can swing my rook over to the king side and win that pawn. Okay, so I'll just play Bishop E7 now as planned. Now's the time to gain some time on the clock, since I think King G2 centralizes his king, but he basically can't stop my plan. My plan is to activate the bishop and then go from there. Where's he going? Interesting. H4 with the king eventually? Well, he can't yet. Well, my bishop's on D8. No, he can't. If he plays H5 and I take it, he pins it, I push H6. And he's not going to get it back. So, again, I'll just gain some time on the clock so I can think and use up recording time with my thoughts. Okay. So, my bishop, gosh, I'd love to get my bishop to D4 if I can at the right time, and drive his rook out of the D file and stick it on D4 and hope for a trade. Then I get a couple passed pawns. Okay, well, you're gonna do that. I'm gonna tempo the rook so that you, or do I want to swing my rook back first? Well, I may be able to tempo both rooks. Bishop. Well, I got some time here. Let's figure it out. Bishop G4, Bishop B6. Okay, if he plays Rook G2, I can play Bishop E3. Now he has to go off the D file, which is what I want. Now I can play bishop D4. Of course, one drawback with that is, even though I get a nice passed pawn, he gets the E file, so I don't want to play that necessarily. I can play bishop F4. That's a good square for it. It keeps him off. He could play bishop D2, but this is getting me closer to doing... Oh no, his D-pawn's going to hang. I may be winning his D-pawn here in a minute. Bishop B6, it's obvious. I'm driving him off the D file. I'm going to win that D pawn, I think, unless I'm missing something. See, it's the drawback of blitz chess. Unfortunately, this game has evolved to that. We're in a 30-second increment game. 30 seconds is still 120 moves an hour. That's pretty fast, considering your secondary time controls are often 25 moves in an hour, which gives you over 2 minutes a move. It's too bad ICC isn't set up to give time controls like 40 moves in 2 hours and then 20 moves in an hour. Okay, so now bishop E3 and D5 hangs. Bishop E3, where's he? Oh, he goes to... let's see, bishop E3, rook E2, rook DE2, bishop F4. Now if he plays bishop D2, I can take the pawn on D5, but he's going to double my pawns. See, rook takes D5, bishop takes, I take, but I've got a couple of nice passed pawns, and he plays rook D2. And if I take, then he takes. Now he's on D6. Wow, this is crazy. So C3, offering a pawn. B takes C3. A3. Rook takes D6. A2. Rook A6, and I cry. So that doesn't work. So bishop... If I play bishop E3 and he plays rook E2, suppose I play bishop C1, keeping the pressure on B2 and keeping the rook off of D2. I have a minute to figure that out. Bishop D2, rook E2, bishop E1, C1. Where does he go? If he plays bishop D2, I grab on B2 and there's nothing he can do about it. So I'm still threatening rook D2. He can play rook G1, and then my bishop goes to F4. If I go back to F4, he gets bishop D2 in. Well, I have to move. I can always repeat the position, I think, if I have to, or go back to a bishop D4 theme. Let's see. He's hanging on by the skin of his teeth. And I still haven't found the most accurate plan, but I did get my bishop activated, which was the goal. I said, it'll activate later, and it certainly has. So let's see, rook E2. Okay, now bishop C1. If he plays rook E1, okay, I got 50 seconds. Bishop C1, rook E1. Where do I go with the bishop? I have to go back to F4. Now if he plays bishop D2, I either take it or let him take. By doing that, I can win the pawn on D5. He takes on F4, I take on F4. He no longer has doubling rook's possibility that he did before. So bishop C1 is the move. Of course, he can play rook G1 also, but here the point is I'm threatening his pawn on D5 and getting his rooks from being doubled as they were in some of the other lines. Okay, so bishop C1, we're both in bad time pressure. And, you know, if push comes to shove, I just trade bishops on d2 and go about my business and make my pass pawn like I was trying to do already. And if anything, I hold a positional draw. Hate to have to hold a positional draw, but if that means he played well to make me play for it, then all the better for him. g6. Okay, can that be any good? What's his plan? I don't know what his plan is. So suppose I just take his pawn on d5. Okay, he takes... I'm just going to take his pawn on d5 and make him prove it. I just don't have enough time to prove things. Okay, he took. Now, do I want to take or go to h7 or h8? No, I better take. I can cover g7 well enough. The bishop now has h6 at its disposal. Okay, so now black has won back a pawn for what it's worth. It's only a pawn, but from a point count, pure point count chess, the game is even. But there's more to this game than point count chess. Okay, it's time for me to get some activity here. I got to activate my rook. It's out of play. I think d1 is a good square for it. Threatens. I don't know what it threatens, but it's just a good square for it. It threatens a check. Get rid of his rooks off, and then get my pass pawns running if I can. Make another pass pawn with e4 as quickly as I can. Okay, I have 44 seconds to decide if I want to stick my rook on the back rank. Other than that, I have to put it back on b5 or c5 and still bring it into play. Rook d1. What's he play? h6. I just take it off, right? Rook d1 it is. Again, what I'd like to do is put my bishop on f4, then play d5 and d4, and it's curtains for him. He just doesn't have enough with his pass pawn here. Let's see. So bishop f4 is a threat because it threatens rook h1. And I would win the exchange. If I trade all the rooks, that's bishop of opposite colors. Don't have to trade the rooks. I can keep them on. Or I can try to win the bishop of opposite color ending. So let's see, rook d1. He's got 38 seconds to find a move. My plan is bishop f4 next move. He could play bishop d2 here, I suppose. Bishop d2. I can check him. Oh, he took on e5. What's he doing? He's planning to check me to death. Okay, I have 47 seconds to decide on a move. Let's get his rook. Let's get his rooks deactivated here. No, wait. No, I can't do that. I'll bring the bishop back. I'll do that next move. I have to take it. Okay, now 53 seconds. If I check, if he goes to g3, then I've shut off his rook from action. If he trades it off, I have the two bishops. So let's see, rook h8, h1 check, king g3, then I can take on h5. Okay, so let's see. Plus, if he puts a rook h2, I trade it, and then stick my bishop on f4, and he's toast. So rook h1 check. He has to play king h3. Okay, or king g3. He has to play king g3 here. And he did. Now, I have two bishops for the rook, so I've won some material. Let's guard f5. Guard f5 is important. I can't lose that pawn. and he gets a check. Now let's see. If my king goes up, he gets a discovery, but it's not a very useful discovery, although he could get his rook's doubled on the 7th rank. Let's see. King h6. Let's advance my king. King h6, rook check, king g5. Bishop f4, bishop takes f4 check. King f3, ouch. Let's repeat the position a couple moves and gain some time. King h6. Okay. King h6, let him check. I'll go back to h7, he checks, and I go back, check, and if I go to g6, he has f4 check, and I have to take with the bishop, then he plays king f3, and I cry. Because I have to give up my bishop. So, let's see. Eventually he's going to get a discovery with his king. The only question is how serious it is, so I can afford to gain some time on the clock. Oh, he did that. Okay, so I think that buys me a little time to get my pieces activated. What's his threat? There is no threat. Rook g5 check. He can't play to f4. This makes his rooks interfere with themselves in some respect. If his king goes back to the 2nd rank, then his rook can't slide over to the H file with check. And I've got one of his rooks tied down to guarding B2. You can't get to f4, so let's see, rook check. If king f2, suppose I just play rook g6. The idea of that is that I take away a check from him, and I should be okay out of that. It's almost a 3-hour game. Wow. Who's watching? Anybody? 522. Pawn Pusher 3 is in. Okay, so now black is actually head material. So the ideally, I may very well be pushing one pawn e3 or c3 here shortly. The idea being to get a pass pawn. Ooh, can I check him with f4? What does he do? With bishop f4 check. Let's see, bishop f4 check. If he plays king g3, I can get a set of rooks off with rook check, king back, and then it's over. So it forces king h1, and I may still get the rooks off. Gosh, time. Okay, rook check. Okay, so king g1 or h1. Now, suppose I pressure him with bishop d1. Bishop d1. And I'll trade rooks at any time in here, I think, because my bishops are just going to have a field day here against the rook. Bishop d1. It might force him to put his rook on f2. Rook f2, and then I check and he goes to G1. I don't know. Let's see. Time is ticking. Okay, I don't mind a rook trade here. Okay, let's see. If King H5, I get mated in 1, so that would be no good, right? We just trade rooks here. Okay, so that takes the heat off, and now I have to go back to my original plan of making a pass pawn on the queen side. And even if I have to sacrifice a pawn, I can do it. Okay, so let's see. I can sack a pawn now and get a pass pawn. A3. I'm threatening to push or take, so he has to take. I push C3. What's he do? A3 might just win right now. A3 pawn takes C2. A4. Wait. A3. A3 takes C3. A4. C2. He drops his rook. There's no drawing chances. A3 does it. He gets a spite check. A3. Now see what he does. A3. The idea of B takes A3, C3, C2, and C1. Wow, I had to work on this game. This guy's getting good. Rook D1, I play C2. I mean, Rook D7, I play C2. Rook check, I play King F7. Then on Rook C6, I still play C2. Hello, Pawn Pusher 3. You and Truxton would be a good match for each other to gauge each other's strengths. I will tell Truxton about it. You guys getting together for a good standard game. You're both in the Rat Pack. You're supposed to have met and talked to each other. Shame on you guys. The Rat Pack. It rocks. Oh, thank you for the game, sir. Wow, that was a tough game. So, Truxton, what I'm going to do is turn Skype on. I'll stop this recording and send this along to you. I'll discuss ways to do that with you on Skype, and then we'll make a video of this game. Okay, hang on.